Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the June 2nd Riverfront Design Review Committee. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Anthony Blatt.
Here.
Scott Howard. Brian Doherty. Paul Dedman. John Joyce. Don Kasperite. Jillian Robles. Richie Split. And David Yost. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Second item on the agenda this morning is approval of the April 7th meeting minutes.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Dedman. Second by Mrs. Robles. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is cases withdrawn, and there are none. Item 4, continuance requests, and there are none. Item 5, the consent docket, and there are no items. Item number 6, cases for individual consideration. Item A, SRCA-16-00006 at 1228 Southwest 2nd Street in the Farmers Market District.
I'll introduce it as staff. This is a proposal to add a storage room to the existing Powerhouse building. The Powerhouse building is that small building that sits on the same side as the original Farmers Market. So this would be a storage room with a rooftop deck accessed by an exterior stair. The applicable guidelines are that additions are supposed to match or complement the existing building. It's up to the committee to weigh in on to what extent they feel that shipping containers do that. Shipping containers have been approved on other projects in the district, specifically at the Del Mar Gardens food truck site across 2nd Street. There is a freestanding restroom structure of shipping containers that's almost finished with construction, but that's a freestanding building. It's not in addition to any of the existing structures there. Shipping containers could be considered to provide a complementary design interest, but it might also be that additions, it should be a more low-profile addition to this building. And the architect is here to speak.
Would the applicant like to present the case?
My name is David Windling. I'm a studio architecture. I'm mainly here to kind of answer any questions you have, but I can kind of describe the design. We had explored doing a stucco veneer on there to kind of match the existing structure, but we had actually decided to go with a shipping container simply because the Del Mar Gardens across the street, which I also worked on with Jody McAnally and Bud Scott, we thought that it'd kind of introduce a kind of fun dynamic that has been seen other places in the city, really. And we've been trying to kind of really update the area in general, and we thought that making this connection kind of across the street would allow more pedestrian traffic to kind of flow back and forth and kind of liven the area in general. You got a really large open paved area right there that kind of suits itself for, kind of the flow of traffic. And if you go there on the weekends, people will be walking around that entire kind of boulevard of antique shops and whatnot. So we kind of thought it would not only kind of connect the properties across the street, but with that kind of deck up top, create a kind of fun, dynamic environment for people to flow in and out of and enjoy on their time off and whatnot. So that was kind of the thought behind it.
Do we have any questions or comments from the committee?
Well, I think it's going to be an unusual look, but I think it works somehow with the building that's there now, which is a very unusual little building, too.
Yeah, I think that that was kind of another point we were trying to hit on. That area has maybe one, two, maybe three kind of stucco buildings. The rest are kind of brick, but if you look at it in a holistic view. It's pretty eclectic in nature, but we're trying to kind of take that eclectic nature, kind of corral it and use it to our advantage versus kind of letting it just run wild, if you will.
So, to David's point, I think it's tastefully done. It looks good. My question is that a full-size container?
No,
or
it's
is
not.
it?
It's going to be cut down. The full-size container would have been 20 feet or so, and it would have gone way out into the parking lot. So we're having to kind of cut it down. But if you've ever been inside there, he's severely hurting for storage. So it's kind of a win-win situation. We get a fun environment for people to enjoy on a nice day outside, and he gets a little more storage so he can deal with more customers, hopefully.
I'm a little curious about the finish on the exterior. So shipping containers have lots of places where corrosion can occur, and then the finish itself is usually not anything that's going to be long-lasting. We have allowed metals into the district in areas where we use kind of a high-performance architectural metal. What's the finish? What's the method of dealing with all of the jointery that?
It'll be primed and painted with an exterior grade rated paint, and as you said, paint it degrades over time, so that'll be a maintenance issue. But we're planning on using a high quality paint that will withstand at least that for some amount of time.
And it's intended to be a weather-tight, insulated envelope?
Correct, it is. They'll have a mini split unit kind of above that window, providing HVAC into the interior environment right there. But it's all sealed around that connection with kind of a thermal and watertight expansion joint. So it'll be insulated on the inside as well.
If there aren't any other comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval.
Moved by Mr. Dudley.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Yost. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 7, under other business. Item A, CE-00933 at 201 Southwestern Avenue in the Farmers Market District. If you'd like to present.
Good morning. Occasionally you get requests such as this. It's in your regulations that you have, you can comment on projects going to other entities. This is a request to close part of the right-of-way for this street, and your recommendation is going to the Planning Commission. So currently, there's 120 foot of right-of-way, and it's 2-lane roadway for exchange, and it's one-way southbound. And the Greek restaurant has submitted the application to get 60 foot of this right-of-way, and it's actually currently the grassy area that you see that on the surface you would think that's their property anyway. It's a huge expanse of grass. And one of the, there is some design considerations going on right now that haven't been finalized that could affect traffic on this section. We did follow through with the traffic division to make sure they had no issue with what the proposal is, and they had no problems with the proposal at all. So what you're looking at in this picture is this is essentially the 60 foot. So what would be left will be 60 feet, so there'll be a 60 foot of right-of-way left for the 2 lanes of exchange, and the only thing they're acquiring, they're not acquiring anything that's paved, they're not acquiring any of the actual physical roadway that you drive on. That's not part of the request. And then subsequently, they would have to go to district court to actually vacate to acquire the property and have it included in their, physically part of their property. The applicant is not here. I have not personally talked to them, but subdivision and zoning spoke with him when he filed the application for the CE.
So did he say what he wanted? Is it for parking or?
He said that apparently there is future plans that we have not seen where he wants to expand parking, expand his building, but but nothing is definite. There were no plans that he could actually give us to include with this proposal, but they would have to come to you at some point in the future. So he anticipates enlarging his building, having to move his parking around, and that is why he was wanting to be able to acquire this 60-foot.
So in this condition, is the city basically giving property to this person?
I asked that question, and apparently that's how this, because I didn't know, I asked, do people have to pay the city for when they acquire right-of-way? And the answer I got from traffic was, no, they don't have to pay for it. They will ultimately, if they go to district court and it gets vacated, it becomes part of their property, they then start paying property tax on it.
So the maintenance of that, if this acquisition goes forward, it will be theirs to maintain?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm thinking they probably maintain it already, because people typically mow to the curb in front of their property, but I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if the city has to go out and mow it now or not. But it definitely would be their responsibility.
Well, our function would really be to consider what appearance change that might make. Will there be a difference in the way it would be kept clean or maintained if it was vacated?
Not knowing who maintains it now, I can make an assumption that there wouldn't be a difference, because that entire area, when you look at it, including onto their property, is obviously maintained by the same person or group of people, because it all looks seamless.
The responsibility for mowing right now of any property in the state is your own property, in addition to sidewalks and such that are adjacent thereto. So if right now this abuts the property of this applicant, they're already responsible for mowing it, subject to that same responsibility by another property owner, say, across the way from them.
So with respect to our bulk standards and our design district guidelines, are there restrictions on what they could or could not develop into this area? Could they develop parking in, and would that be appropriate? And could they develop their building into this area, or would an existing right-of-way on the bulk, setback on the bulk standards inhibit them from?
The regulations right now, there are exemptions for additions to or modifications of existing structures. If they built another freestanding building, it would have to comply to all the regulations. If they expand the parking, that we would be looking at the expansion part. We couldn't really look at what's existing there now. So it could be a combination of a bunch of things when it comes in, some that have to comply and some that don't, all depending on what the project looks like. And it could be some time before we see it. I'm not really sure. I don't think he's ready to submit anything yet based on his conversation when he submitted his application to subdivision and zoning.
If they were to propose a new building, then their setback would be measured from the new lot line, so it would inherently be closer to exchange.
What action are we being asked to give?
As indicated at the end of the staff report, typically it would be, if you're supportive of the request, you would be making a motion for approval to the Planning Commission for their consideration. Yes, that's correct. Or it could be denied. I mean, you have all the normal options for recommendations.
there's an interesting thing that I'm just thinking about. If that is public space right now, because that's public property, and that's within the river, would that be River Trust property?
It's part of the street right-of-way, so that wouldn't be River Trust property. That's a city street.
Well, the zone in the closure, the zoning would remain the same for the whole property, so it's still under RDC.
It's still under yours, but not the River Trust.
It surprised me that there's a possibility that you could do it and there's no money that would come back to either River Trust or city or anything like that, because to me, that is a valuable piece of property, all that property, because, and, with situations where they're talking about potential leasing property down there and all as money coming back into River Trust or city, it seems to me like it would be more advantageous if there's something coming back to the city for doing that.
Right. Now, in looking at the map, the river is down significantly south. We just had a case that was here, so this is within a couple of blocks from the one you just saw. It could have different considerations if this was, say, adjacent to the river or adjacent to property the city owns along the river. But this is street right-of-way, city street right-of-way.
With all the, looking at the map, with all the development that's going on down there, is there any, looking at Exchange further down, it's much wider, is there any chance that they'd ever want to widen Exchange on that block?
That's why I asked the question I went to traffic, because when I was writing the staff report, because I was trying to figure out why it was so wide in the first place, and apparently there was railroad right-of-way that the city ended up with, and that's why we had 120 feet. And traffic indicated to me they don't have a problem with this request at all. They don't have any plans to do anything other than with this section of Exchange.
But doesn't, when the boulevard comes through,
Yeah,
everything about the intersection of Western and Classen and Reno, everything about that, I don't remember what the final plans look like, but everything about that is changing significantly.
Yes, the day I went to ask the question, they were actually reviewing DOT's plans in traffic, and this whole area there are proposals that will be coming through that will totally change traffic flow in this area, that will change the character of Exchange because the traffic flow will be much, much less.
And the boulevard is going to be a more pedestrian type of, there's going to be a pedestrian component to the boulevard, and is this not farmers market that this right-of-way terminates down into to the southwest?
I'm trying.
The boulevard will have sidewalks. Yeah. We'll have street trees and sidewalks and all that. Yeah.
Oh, you're asking if Exchange is going to tie in?
Well, when the boulevard is complete.
Up in here.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And they really will not connect if some of the drawings I've seen are.
I would assume that when this comes in front of the Planning Commission, that the applicant will probably be present. And if there's some, compelling argument for this that we're not hearing today, they'll have a chance to hear it. So I would be inclined to not make a recommendation.
Yeah, I agree with that. It seems like we don't have a dog in the fight if it's not an obvious appearance issue. And the Planning Commission is going to be considering it with a wider range of issues in mind probably than we're really supposed to be acting upon.
So if there is no motion, it'll just die for a lack of motion. then I would entertain.
Well, would it be appropriate then to move that we make no,
No motion.
we express no opinion regarding approval or disapproval?
Second.
I'll make that motion.
You really don't even have to, I mean, by not doing it.
We can just remain silent without any motion.
Yes.
Okay. For a lack of a motion, we're going to move on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 8, communications. Under administrative approval report, we have 3 items. SRCA 15-00003 at 1225 Southwest 2nd Street in the Farmers Market District. Item 2, SRCA 16-00003 at 1732 South Meridian Avenue. And SRCA 16-00004 at 1732 South Meridian Avenue. Do you want to speak to any of these?
No, just your next one, your next item.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll speak to the 1225 Southwest 2nd. That's the Del Mar Gardens food truck court. If you haven't been out, I think it turned out fabulously.
Okay. Okay. Item B is comments from Planning Department staff.
We currently have 3 cases for your next meeting, and the reason I wanted to bring that up is your next meeting is scheduled for July 7th, which is the week of 4th of July. Monday is that holiday, and we kind of wanted just to poll people because I know a lot of people go out of town that time. We wanted to make sure as early as possible, if we're going to have to kind of move that meeting around, that we knew it, since we have cases on.
I'll be present.
Correct.
So is anyone here not planning to be here on the 7th? Great.
It'll be a great meeting to be at, so you'll want to, some exciting projects coming in.
Any other comments from staff? Okay, item C is comments from committee members. And item D is next meeting date, and we spoke about that, so it's the 7th of July, and we have items. Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. So moved and seconded, all in favor? Motion carries. Thank you all very much.